the latest NBA draft rumors, and we'll start things off with Trey Young. Is he going inside the top 6?
Well, this is an interesting one. I'm only going to give this one about 3 heads because there's still a possibility that he drops out. But I think it's more likely that he either A, goes in the top 6 and someone trades up for him than him falling out. I mean, if he's there at 6 for the Orlando Magic, then I think they're going to take him. I mean, look, they've interviewed him already. They traveled down to Oklahoma to interview some coaches. But something that needs to be noted, the Knicks have also kept a really close eye on Trey Young. I'm talking a really close eye. They've also interviewed him multiple times. They've had him in for a couple private workouts. They flew down to Oklahoma as well to interview some coaches. So, look, I think that Trey Young is going to end up going in the top 6. I originally had him going to the Cavs at 8th overall. That's not going to happen anymore. His draft stock has continued to rise because I think people have I think we're starting to remember what Trey Young was like in the first half of the season rather than what he showed in March Madness in the second half. So, yes, I do believe that Trey Young is going to go in the top 6.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Best fit for him, by the way. What do you think? Like a team.
The best fit for Trey Young, I would probably say, I still think it would be the Cavs if LeBron leaves, but in terms of teams that could draft him, I would say the Magic at 6 are probably the best overall fit for him. I think the Knicks would be great, but he's not going to be on the board there. But I definitely think at 6, the Magic, it would give them a ticket seller, put butts in seats. I would like it a lot. I think that Trey Young going to the Magic there at 6 would be good. It would be really, really nice fit. And again, like they have to sell tickets somehow.
All right, there you go. 3 heads there on Trey Young going inside the top 6. Next on the list, the Mavs are not trading the number 5 overall pick. You're giving this 3 heads.
I am giving this one 3 heads because I just don't believe that they're going to actually end up doing it. And Donnie Nelson said this as well. Like he said in a press conference, I don't think we're looking to trade out, and it's not very surprising. I mean, look, they need to hold on to that number 5 pick. They really need more young talent on this team. They obviously got Dennis Smith Jr., they have Harrison Barnes, but after that, in terms of overall young players, they don't really have a lot. Like, they just don't. I mean, it's really Dennis Smith Jr. and Harrison Barnes. So I think that getting another young player, maybe somehow Luka Doncic falls to 5. Maybe they try to swing something to get Mo Bamba there at 5. So there are a lot of different possibilities for the Mavs. I just wonder what would they actually get for the number 5 overall pick? I mean, we have a trade that we'll bring up later for the ridiculous Celtics-Mavs trade that was apparently for the number 5 overall pick. But for now, I don't think they're going to trade.
All right, so 3 heads there on the Mavs staying pat at number 5 overall. Let's go to rumor number 3 here. NBA draft may be moving to 4 to 5 rounds.
Yeah, and we're going to give this one 2 heads. Now, they are very preliminary, topics of this. Like, this is very, very, very preliminary discussions, according to Adam Silver, with the NBA PA. This would be a huge change. I'm talking one of the biggest changes that the NBA has done in a long, long time. Veterans across basketball would be absolutely furious if this ended up happening. Not because they don't want to see young players coming into the draft, but because the amount of players that will be drafted would go up exponentially. We're talking going from 60 potential players drafted every year to 150 new players coming into the draft. Now, I personally don't believe that there are enough players to be drafted every single year like that, but 150 players from 60 is a huge influx of talent into the NBA, and one that I think that the NBA PA is going to push back on a lot. They have been so forward about getting veterans money and extending careers in the NBA, and pushing more rounds in the NBA draft would certainly hurt that possibility.
Very preliminary.
Very preliminary.
Yeah, all right. We'll give it 2 heads there, firmly in the rumor category. Next up, the Bulls. Are they targeting a young point guard here, Harris? What do you think?
I'm only going to give this one 2 heads because it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me in the first place. I mean, look, this is coming from NBC Sports, and they're talking about how, despite the fact that they have Chris Dunn and Justin Holiday and Zach LaVine, that they're still enamored with Trey Young and they're high on Colin Sexton. Apparently, they're also not worried about this affecting the development of Chris Dunn, which doesn't make any sense to me at all, seeing as they would be drafting a point guard. And what would happen to Chris Dunn? He's a pass-first point guard. Why would they draft another one? It makes no sense to me. Maybe Trey Young makes sense because he's more of a combo guard and he's not really a pure point. But look, they have much bigger needs than another point guard. Power forward is a need. Small forward is a need. I also think a center is a bigger need as well than point guard. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't think they're going to end up doing it.
All right, so 2 heads there. Let's talk about the Celtics perhaps trading up for Mo Bamba.
I was this close to making this one a fake news. Can't even say like this close to making it fake news.
Hey, sources told Sporting News.
Yes. We're giving this one head. This is so close to fake news. This is like 0.5 heads because apparently Boston has expressed interest in Mo Bamba. Now, there was some rumblings.
I also expressed interest in becoming the president.
Exactly. You know, I expressed interest in going into food preparation, but that didn't end up happening. Look, some rumblings that the Celtics might have traded up with the Mavs, and then we had a league source saying, don't waste your time on that one. And we have a trade. Look, this was the prospective trade. This is not for me. Do not yell at me. I'm not coming up with this one because this is a terrible trade. Horrifyingly bad. The Celtics get the number 5 overall pick in the draft. The Mavs get Jaylen Brown and the number 27 overall pick.
Then they draft Mo Bamba.
Why would either team do this? This was a trade that Mike Fisher, who I respect a lot, look, he's in charge of DallasBasketball.com. He's one of the best sources out there. Who is this trade good for exactly? The Mavs lose out on a young player. They take a huge flyer on Jaylen Brown, not being coached by Brad Stevens. The Celtics trade away a guy who they drafted 3rd overall, who's developing quite nicely, mind you, to get a worse pick than what they originally drafted Jaylen Brown at, and have to trade away a 1st-round pick. What? Like, why was this even flown out there? Like, I get it. I love throwing out fake trades as well. This makes no sense. 0 sense. Why would the Celtics trade a great 2 guard who can also defend the 3, who can shoot threes, for a shot blocking center? No, not happening. Don't like it.
Is he
Terrible
worthy
trade.
of a top 3 pick? That's the question I want answered from you guys in the comments.
I think he is if you have him ranked above Marvin Bagley. If you think that he's a better player than Marvin Bagley, I do not. I have Mo Bamba as our number 5 overall player in terms of my big board. I do not have him, in the top 3. I think Bagley's way better. But look, the Mavs apparently have him in the top 3, which I don't really understand. I don't know where the argument is that he's better than Bagley. I don't really know where the argument is that he's better than Jaren Jackson. So I think he's number 5. I like where I have him on my big board. I'm not moving him. He's not a top 5 player.
Well, I guess
4
I
player,
can ask a philosophical question here, Harris, and we can, of course, bring up the trade details if we want as well. But in terms of the landscape of the NBA, and where we are headed, and where you look at shot blocking centers going out of style, does this trade make sense whatsoever here in 2018? Because we're assuming Boston is trading up to get Mo Bamba.
The reason that I have, and I want to preface Bamba with something. The reason I have Bagley above Bamba is because I think that Bagley, at a minimum, is going to be able to put up 17 to 18 points a night from the power forward or center spot. I don't know if Mo Bamba is ever going to average more than 14 points per game. And I'm sorry, unless he's Draymond Green 2.0 but 7 foot with his ridiculous wingspan, I think it is so difficult to spend top 5, top 3 picks on big men unless they're just transformative players. Like, look, I love Karl Anthony Towns, but can you win a title with Karl Anthony Towns as your second best player? Can you win a title with Kristaps Porzingis as your best player? I think in the modern day NBA, it's difficult to do so if they don't shoot threes. Karl Anthony Towns started shooting threes this year. He did an okay job at it. Kristaps Porzingis is able to shoot threes. That's fine. These unicorn centers, that's going to work out. But overall, I just don't know if you can win an NBA Finals in today's NBA if your second or third best player is a center. And the Celtics realize this. That's why they signed Gordon Hayward and traded for Kyrie Irving. And we saw the Warriors figure this out as well. We saw the Cavs figure this out. I don't know if it's possible in today's NBA.
All right, so 1 head there on Boston trading up for Mo Bamba. Rumor number 6
Here we go again with this stuff.
Jaren Jackson, the best player, perhaps.
Well, this is coming from Adrian Wojnarowski, and this has been kind of thrown around that Jaren Jackson might end up being the best player in this draft, and he's the best overall prospect. Giving this one 2 heads just to give it some fair rumor, just,
juice.
Relevance, juice. Thank you. I have him at number 4 overall on my big board. I think he's an incredibly raw prospect. I think that we're not going to see what Jaren Jackson is able to do until at least year 3, if not year 4 in the NBA. I think he'd be a great fit on the Kings because they are not going to be competitive for a while, but I do not think he's the best prospect in this draft. I don't even think he's the best big man in this draft. What is the argument that Jaren Jackson is better than DeAndre Ayton? There isn't one.
There is zero argument.
There is no argument. DeAndre Ayton was incredible this year. Jaren Jackson barely played in March Madness. Now, whether that was a Tom Izzo thing or whatever it was, look, Jaren Jackson might have the best potential in this draft. Maybe. Hard maybe on that. But he's long, he's raw, he doesn't have a great offensive skill set. He's a good defender, not a great defender. He's long, he can block shots, but I just don't know what his ceiling is in the NBA. How good can someone like Jaren Jackson really be without a refined offensive game? I don't believe this. I still think DeAndre Ayton is the overall best player in this year's draft in terms of NBA-ready player. Doncic is my number 1 player in terms of I just think he's going to be the best player in this draft class. But in terms of NBA readiness, it's Ayton.
All right, so who's getting drafted number 1 overall? Let us know.
Doncic, he signed. I don't know how many times I have to yell at the Suns.
Sound like a broken record.
They hired his Slovenian national team coach. They have the number 1 overall pick. How does this not make sense to people anymore? Look, I get that Suns fans want Ayton because he's the most NBA-ready prospect. But look, as I said before with big men, you can get a good big man in the middle of the first round and still be fine. The Blazers got Zach Collins at 10. John Collins on the Hawks was drafted last year at 9. You can get a good player, a good big man in the middle of the first round. Take Doncic, take the risk. He could end up paying off in a huge way next to Devin Booker.
Okay, real quick. Let's say the Suns draft DeAndre Ayton. If you had to grade the pick, what is it going to be? Are you going to fail them?
No. If they take it, I feel like Suns fans come at me a lot about this. If they take Ayton, it is not a bad pick. Ayton is a fantastic player and is going to be a star in the NBA. I don't think he's as good as Karl Anthony Towns was coming out, but he'll give me that kind of player who's averaging 23 and 12 by the time he's 22 years old and already making all-star teams. But I just wonder, in the modern-day Western Conference, does DeAndre Ayton win you a Western Conference title? Does it get you to the NBA Finals? I'm not sure. We are in a guard-dominant NBA. I don't know how much Ayton helps you in the long run in terms of winning a Finals.
All right, let's go to rumor number 7 here. Is Dirk the MJ for those abroad? The international guy.
This is interesting because this is something that my dad actually predicted. Stu Rubenstein tossed some predictions out there way back when the Mavs started getting good back in 08. And he was right. Four Jordan heads on this one completely. He is absolutely the MJ for international guys. This is coming from Mo Wagner, the Michigan forward who's coming into the draft this year, saying, I had his poster on my wall.
Wow.
That's my MJ. Luka Doncic has said similar things about Dirk's impact. Dario Saric said a similar thing when he came out of the draft a couple years ago. The impact that Dirk Nowitzki had on the game of basketball is so unbelievably underrated. And I think, when it comes to these international players, same concept for Yao Ming. Yao Ming basically just created basketball in China. The reason that basketball is so big in China today is because of Yao Ming. Same concept with Dirk in mid-Europe right now. He is the MJ for a lot of these guys. You're going to hear a lot more quotes about this as more international guys come into the draft.
All right, what's the deal with Kenneth Faried? Is he getting traded on draft day?
Oh, maybe so. Kenneth Faried has been looking to get traded for what feels like 3 years now, and he might actually get traded.
That's why
now.
He's smiling.
He's smiling because he might finally get traded. Look, he has been a bench player now for 3 straight years just because he's not an effective offensive player. This is coming from Adrian Wojnarowski, who said that the Nuggets could package the number 14 overall pick to move Kenneth Faried. They've been trying to trade him for the past 2 seasons. He's only owed about $14 million, but that's 3rd highest on the Nuggets. So I came up with, a couple Kenneth Faried trades so people don't get mad at me. I think these are some good trades. So, you could trade him to the Hawks.
Can I just say, by the way, I think it's hilarious every time we go through these trades. You're like, don't get mad at me.
I have to defend myself.
You preface it with don't get mad.
The YouTube commenters get so just caught up in these trade possibilities. These are for fun, people. These are fun trades. I love hearing your trades in the comment section.
YouTube commenters don't believe in fun.
I love hearing your trades. Throw some back at me. I want to hear from you guys. These are my ideas, though. For the Hawks, Kenneth Faried plus the 14th overall pick. The Nuggets get number 19 overall. It's a fair trade. The Hawks get to trade up back into the lottery. They get a nice bench player and an expiring contract. The Nuggets get to stay in the first round of the draft, and they get themselves rid of Kenneth Faried's contract. Boom. Congratulations, Nuggets. I kept you a first-round pick and got rid of Kenneth Faried. You should be very happy
You're
with
welcome.
that trade. You should be very happy with that trade. You're welcome. And then with this one, I'd like this one even more for the Suns. They get Faried, who'd be a great player off the bench for them to kind of help Marquise Chris develop his defense a little bit more. And they also get a lottery pick. I mentioned before how the Suns could just wait to the end of the lottery to get a big man. There you go. Just gave you your end of the lottery pick. And then the Nuggets would receive the 2019 first overall pick from the Suns that they got from Milwaukee in the Eric Bledsoe trade. Obviously, it's top 15 protected, so they would get it in 2020 if that pick lands in the top 15. So I like both those trades. I think it'd be good for either team to get Kenneth Faried plus that 14th overall pick, and the Nuggets desperately need to get rid of his contract.
All right, let's go to rumor number 9 here for the NBA draft. Could there be some chaos atop the board?
There's absolutely going to be chaos this year. I would not be surprised if we saw 2 top 5 picks get traded this year. But we're only going to give this one 2 crying Jordans for now, simply because all 3 of those picks getting traded is pretty unlikely. But this is coming from the Combine. We've heard this throughout the entire NBA draft process, that a lot of teams are eager to trade up in the draft this year. We know that the Hawks at 3 have talked about trading the pick. We know that the Memphis Grizzlies at 4 have talked about trading the pick. We've also heard some rumblings that the Mavericks might trade the pick as well. Obviously, we kind of debunked that a little bit earlier. But look, we saw last year the Celtics obviously trade the number 1 overall pick for 3 and a pick either, or obviously not this year, a pick next year, and the 76ers take Fultz at 1. I think we could see something similar to that. I think a couple teams in the top 5 might move around. I think we're going to have a surprise trade, trading up to 4 with the Grizzlies to maybe take a Bagley or a Doncic if he falls. We're going to have a really fun top 5 this year. Remember to watch our live coverage of the NBA draft on June 21st here live on Chat Sports.
Can you believe it's right down the corner?
It's right. That's the great thing about the NBA offseason. You end the NBA Finals on the last day it could possibly be is June 17th. The draft starts the 21st, and then free agency starts July 1st. We're going to have a crazy month of June and July in the NBA. I can't wait.